Also at tonight's State of the Union was Knoxville Fire Captain DJ Corcoran and his wife Wendy. They were the guest of Senator Marsha Blackburn and Representative Tim Burchett. The Corcorans lost their 22-year-old son Pierce in a car crash on Champan Highway back in December. The man charged in the crash was in the country illegally. The Corcorans have advocated for border security since their son's death. Now, we spoke to the University of Tennessee Social Media Command Center tonight about the State of the Union address. And here are the top words they found in tweets from across the country. Those include Trump, Pelosi, veterans, union, investigation, watching, justice, and women. Many people in Tennessee who watched the State of the Union were also keeping tabs on the Vols. Here's a heat map showing the amount of tweets that we've seen during the Vols basketball game.